Now, this is a really exciting announcement to wake up to. Not only did Kama get buffed, but Lanling also received a buff over here on the JP side of things, and we actually did a video talking about Kama like 6 to 8 months ago, and I was going over the fact that she's one of those servants that is just going to age really well and doesn't really need a buff. I mean, I'm sure there are still a ton of people that are using Kama, myself included, to take down a lot of bosses that still come out to this day over on the JP side of things. So I'm kind of curious to see what they tossed her. I know it's on her NP, but realistically, they could just give her the damage upgrade that all NP buffs get, and it'll probably benefit her a lot, because when you think about it, Kama's skill set is just really strong, right? It's one of those things you really don't have to touch, because you're already giving yourself the heal. The NP overcharge is one of those things that just keeps getting better as time goes on, and the fact that it's already targetable is rather insane. It just means whatever team comp you put her in, she has that flex ability to just kind of either make herself get the bonus overcharge for more damage, or she could just target it on somebody else if it's like, say, a Castoria buff, or I don't know, the Tamamo style buff, or Clay and Sky where they give you NP on their overcharge. Regardless, it just stays good, really, no matter where you're going to be using it. The fact that she already just came pre-built with a 50% battery, while also just, for whatever reason, having a niche against alter ego class enemies. I mean, keep in mind, I know she has the alter ego thing because Kiara in the event, but it's still very strong. I guess the only thing they could have buffed on her was maybe the crit damage, because 20% isn't really a whole lot, but when you consider the fact that you're going to be using her with Scotty or Ruler Scotty, and she's rocking the double quick and the double buster deck, she already, again, ages really nicely with the both of them, and then just has a guts that doesn't have a cooldown, like, ridiculous. We've all been there where your guts will come back off the cooldown and you'll still have the guts from her second skill that hasn't worn off yet. So if it's a buff to her NP, realistically, it could just be a buff to the damage, I would imagine. And yeah, I don't really think they changed anything. Did they change anything on this? Oh, I don't think it's really updated. I think, is the bonus damage against charmed enemies new? I want to say that that's newer, because I don't know if she had the charm power mod beforehand. I want to say this is new. I also hold on. Yeah, it is new. Okay, I'm not crazy. I was clicking the wrong thing. The quick performance didn't get raised. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie. I assumed it was like 10 to 30%. I forgot how good she was. So she's just gonna be slam dunking people, because you also have this guaranteed as well. Well, almost guaranteed. Well, I mean, it's, as long as you have, like, the third skill up, right? Like, because you're lowering their charm resistance by 40% for a turn. Dude, this is a little nuts. This is a little crazy. Now, okay, for people that don't really get why it's a really big deal to have it proc first, originally, whenever you'd use this, even if they gave her the charm power mod, the fact that this procs first means that you have the chance to put the charm on them and then do damage afterwards, which means functionally, you could always have this power mod up. Hold on, what is her damage looking like? She is, oh my lord, she is barring away the hardest hitting assassin. let me shift to the side a little bit. Y'all can see, dude, look at this discrepancy. 87,000 compared to 51. That is kind of bonkers. Oh my goodness, she's actually overtaking people like MHX. Now, to be fair, MHX over here still has the ridiculous damage on Saber and Saberface, but remember that is really restrictive. Like, there are only, I mean, not like a handful of enemies, but realistically a handful of enemies in the game that you're going to encounter that are going to have this, and MHX's kit is not as good as Kama's. Keep in mind, this is pretty much valid on anybody that you can stick a charm on. Like, as long as the enemy isn't like permanently immune to debuffs or anything, you're going to be smacking them real. Bro, what is this? The Year of Quick? Because what, we just had a Melt Getter buff over here? Oh my goodness, look at how much, dude, she is smacking people. NP1 hardest hitting servant in the game. That is a bit ridiculous. That is kind of, and then again, even though like, oh, it's like, oh, well, after the scaling goes up a little bit, you know, Abigail will be able to outdamage her by a little bit, but dude, Abigail's kit sucks. Like, her kit's not super great. Considering the fact that Kama's already pretty much a complete servant, she's already got everything you'd really want. Dude, she already has the bonus damage. Like, she already has a niche against alter egos. And now it's like, not only am I going to be able to lock enemies down, because, again, charm functions as a stun, you know, it buys you an additional turn. You also just punish the enemy for getting charmed as well. I mean, there's also, I imagine, funny stuff you can do if you wanted to do, like, a charm-oriented team where you're like, well, just in case my charm on the NP whiffs, you know, I brought my Shuten Doji as well, because... I mean, to be fair, Shuten does, like, lower the enemy's defense, gives you the attack buff. I'm sure you could do something funny with that. But on her own, this is kind of nuts. It's a little ridiculous. The only thing that I think would make her a little bit more bonkers is if they made this 3 turns. So you could pretty much just guarantee that you're going to get the power mod for 3 turns. But even putting that aside, it's an 80% chance, right? So... if you don't know how, like, debuff resistance works in FGO, it is like a flat type of buff, where, like, if you have 100% debuff resistance, you're negating everything. Or if you have, like, a 20% debuff resistance from, like, a magic resistance passive, this would go down to, like, a 60% chance to charm. Sorry, it's really early. I just woke up, but yeah, this is it's a bit ridiculous. The good thing is, against, like, larger enemies, say you're going into, like, a, and I know people always get tired of, like, talking about, like, farming applicability, but if you're going into, like, a 90++ node, and you want her to take out, say, some, like, really large dragon on wave 2, those enemies typically don't have any debuff resistance. They typically are just susceptible to everything. And so you can all but guarantee that you're going to slap this on the enemy and get some massive damage out of it. Servants are a little bit more annoying, as they do, again, typically pack some type of debuff resistance, but even then, you know, it's going to be around the ballpark of, like, 20%, so you have more than a coin flip's chance of being able to land this charm. Again, I'm sure if you really wanted to, you could always pack other servants that, like, raise your ability to debuff enemies or lower the debuff resistance of opposing enemies, whatever have you, so you could try to make your debuff stick a little bit easier, but that's a little insane for Kama. I do kind of wish they would calc it separately, though, just to show you what it would look like without the power mod, because I'm pretty sure it'd be a little bit more reasonable, but it would still be rather high. I do imagine her damage would still be probably a little bit higher than Hassan's, just because of the fact that they did buff her NP. And remember that when you use her first skill on herself, she's actually getting a 25% quick buff, because it overcharges her stage by 1, and it does stack. So even if you do with the charms, she's still building up damage. So yeah, that's a little nuts. I didn't really think Kama needed a buff. She's one of those servants, I guess, kind of like Masashi in my eyes, where you could give her a buff, but she could kind of function without it, but that's rather nice. Now, the one that I'm actually really interested in is Lanling over here, because Lanling is already kind of one of those pseudo support type servants, and if they can make him fit that role just a little bit better, then, you know, I think that'll help out a lot of people that just happen to have pulled this guy, because he is on every single banner, because he's not, you know, story locked or limited in any way. I don't actually know what they buffed, so it's not his NP. It was his second skill. Okay, so it's now a 30% targetable battery, bombs 20 stars, and then it's a 40% buff success rate, which is for this skill over here. I mean, that's just kind of nice. That's neat. I don't know if this is going to exactly break things for different parties, but it does make him kind of nice as a, oh my goodness, another pseudo Arch support servant, dude. Arch just cannot lose when it comes to getting all these servants that are just buffing their card type. Not only do they have the best servant in the game in Castoria, they have Tamamo, who is still rather unique as an Arch support type servant. They have their own Merlin. They have Caskill as a really strong Arch crit support after his most recent buff, where he not only gives batter to the party, but also to himself. Then you've got people like Jufu and Asclepius. You've also got Paracelsus if you don't have the other two yet. And now you also have Lanling. This is a little ridiculous. Like, so you have a guy that functionally is, what, giving you 20% attack. He's going to be giving you 20% arts. I mean, you also have the 50% crit damage in case you need to use your face cards. Like, say your box isn't good enough and you do need to rely on face cards. You've got that. You also have immediate stars to use with the crit damage. If they have any of their own buffs, say it's like an Imperial Privilege servant, I don't know, just spitballing, somebody like Nero, right? She's arts, and I don't know why you'd really be trying to use her for farming, but I guess technically after her buff, you can try to force it to work, and hey, now you've got stars, and you can guarantee her Imperial Privilege, and you have an additional 30% battery, which because art units are generally, even the worst ones, are refunding at least like 70% of their NP back, is a pretty good sweet spot to be at with that 30% NP charge. This is pretty nuts. Pretty nuts. Not as nutty as the Kama one, because I think the Kama one is immediately impactful, but Lanling is one of those ones that I'm assuming they tossed this out there, so if you get him on one of the Saber banners, I haven't checked the banners out yet, we'll probably look at that in tomorrow's video, but say he's on like Muramasa's banner, you go on that banner pretty hard, you're like, oh, I didn't get Muramasa, but I did snag a couple of Lanlings over here. Now Lanling is just a really solid like pseudo art support type servant. Alright, these are both really, really strong buffs. These are always really exciting to get. Because the most disappointing thing for me personally is whenever they throw buffs out there and then it's like, wow, you guys kind of just wasted a buff slot on this servant. You know, this doesn't really do anything new for them. Or some of the ones that are a little disappointing are, say, like Geronimo's, right? Where it's obviously a very strong buff that he got, but he's going to need 2 more buffs at the very least before he's really usable. And then we got to wait like 3 years until we have all of the buffs. But these things that are just immediately useful, things that you can immediately put to use, yeah, these are pretty strong. I'm going to be very excited to go buff up my Kama and start taking her around and just see how much damage we're able to get out. I mean, especially against alter egos as well, because now, I mean, I kind of feel like she's impeding on Masashi's job, because I don't think I'm a crazy person saying that I think Kama's kit is just a lot better than Masashi's, and then you also just have her impeding on the alter ego type niche that Masashi has. I mean, the only thing that I guess Kama could get that make her a little bit better is, like, I don't know, a little bit more crit damage, so without the Scotty, she can do better crits on her own. Maybe this is 3 turns, but aside from that, I mean, remove the demerit, I guess, you know, take that out. You could say that maybe she should, like, drop stars on this, but she's a quick servant. She already drops, you know, a ton of stars. A quick assassin at that, with naturally high star gen and naturally high, oh, does she not have the thing? That's really weird. She's like one of the few assassins that doesn't have presence concealment. I guess it's because she's supposed to be an archer or something. Isn't that correct? So the lore heads can correct me on that in the comment section down below. I'm pretty sure she's supposed to be an archer, but is stuck in the assassin class. So maybe that's why she doesn't have presence concealment. But again, still very powerful quick cards and really strong star gen over here. But all right, yeah, just wow, these are pretty good buffs. I'm pretty excited to see this. It's a real good start to the day. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And with that being said, I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace, late guys.